Welcome, everyone. Today we have ComUSAV USA presenting this conference. It's a completely free webinar that we have the honor to have Dr. Aparicio and Faustino Cortez with us. We're going to let everyone in and let's begin. I welcome you. If this is your first time hearing about ComUSAV, ComUSAV is the World Health and Life Coalition. We have a presence in 27 countries and with over 7,000 medical doctors, plus therapists, plus lawyers, plus activists, plus you name it. And so if you want to go and go to our website, it's www.comusav.com. You can choose the language and see what this organization is all about. OWICE really is about helping lives and helping people save lives and getting better with their health. So let's begin. Dr. Manuel Aparicio Alonso is our medical doctor. He's a spine and sclerosis surgeon. He's also pediatric orthopedics. He's the president of ComUSAV Worldwide. ComUSAV is an organization, like I mentioned. He's also the medical director of ComUSAV Worldwide. He has a bachelor degrees of medicine from the Autonomous University of Querétaro. He's also an orthopedics specialty from the UMAE 14 CMN in Veracruz, Mexico. He is a pediatric traumatology surgery specialty. He studied this at the UMAE also, Dr. Fuente N in Mexico. His pediatric orthopedics, he worked at Shriners Children's Hospital in Mexico. He also has experience with spine surgery and deformities from Barnes Jewish Hospital in St. Louis, Missouri. He also has experience working at the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, California as a sclerosis surgeon. He's also the director currently at Jurica Medical Center, a private clinic which is highly specialized in traumatology and orthopedics, and this is in Querétaro, Mexico. So welcome, Dr. Manuel Aparicio.
Thank you very much, Tania. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you. And today I wanted not only to talk about the AI protocol, but to update for those new guys who join us today about the 3 articles that we've been able to publish recently. And also what's the actual condition of humanity with the JAV. So I prepared this special presentation for you. I hope that you're seeing right now my presentation. If not, let me know, please. So this presentation is called the CDS versus COVID-19 as the antidote. And this is directed for the English spoken countries in the world. We're going to talk about many things today. I hope not to bore you, but we're going to talk about official documents regarding CLO2. We're going to talk about the 3 articles that have been recently published in index magazines about prophylaxis, treatment, and long-term effects in COVID-19 patients treated with chlorine dioxide. And obviously, we're going to talk about the AI protocol, the anti-inoculation official ComUSAV protocol. Oh, it's not going on. There you go. Okay, regarding official documents, we have a lot of documents about the chlorine dioxide, and we're going to start with this document stated in 2004 from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services that states that chlorine dioxide is safe and has minimal risk levels if you take up to 2.9 milligrams per kilogram a day in a patient. And you're not going to see any side effects until you go up to 5.7 milligrams per kilogram a day. So as any substance, chlorine dioxide has to be known how to use it. If you know the correct doses and how to administer, you're not going to have any problems with it. So in this document from the World Health Organization in 2002, where they repeat what the U.S. Department of Human Health Services say, that below those doses, 2.9, you're not going to have any trouble at all with chlorine dioxide. But if you go up to 40 to 80 milligrams, you're going to start seeing some corrosive activity in the stomach and gastrointestinal tract. And the LD50, that means the dose that kills 50% of the people, is stated at 94 milligrams per kilogram of body weight, and that has to be taken for continuously 14 days. This is summarized in this table that you can see in here, where you see in green all the potential therapeutic doses of chlorine dioxide. These are the doses that we use to treat all our patients. And these are the LD50s for the WHO and the EPA and NIOSH. This is 292 milligrams per kilogram, but we take this dose as the LD50, and we are 30 times below that dose in treating COVID-19 patients. You can see here, placed in that same graphic, what are the doses that I used to treat my patients with mild, moderate, and severe COVID. And this is the summary of what has been published in these 3 articles. We treated 1,136 symptomatic patients, and we treated 1,163 family members who were in contact with those patients. And that's what you're going to see in this next article. So we're going to start to see what happens with the prophylaxis of chlorine dioxide. This is the article. You can Google it. You can access it for free. It is published in the International Journal of Multidisciplinary Research and Analysis. You have the title there. And this is where we included all the family members who were in contact with the COVID-19 patients and taking care of them, and the management of them. We're going to see it afterwards, but you have to know that we did laboratory tests before and after they took the chlorine dioxide, and you can see that everything stays in normal values. The only thing that went with a P significant value was the MCV, and that stood in normal parameters after the treatment. This was the only significant change, but I repeat, it still stood in normal parameters after the treatment with chlorine dioxide. We analyzed these secondary effects that we call Hersheimer reaction or curative crisis. And why do we call it this way? Because patients get rid of these side effects if they lower the dose to have the dose, and then they increase the dose 1 cc per day until they reach the recommended dose. It is to know that 19 out of 20 family members did not develop any secondary effects. This is the summary of the article, where you can see that we analyzed 1,163 relatives who received chlorine dioxide for at least 14 days to prevent developing COVID-19-like symptoms. And the effectiveness of chlorine dioxide was up to 90.4%. These familiars did not develop any symptoms of COVID-19. And the 9.6 of the rest of the patients or family members did develop some of the COVID-19 symptoms, and we increased the dose of chlorine dioxide, and they all healed 1 to 4 days after. These symptoms were sporadic, and they all solved within at maximum 4 days. And out of these 111 relatives, 10, which is less than 1% of all the sample, suspended the prophylactic management because they had headache and gastritis, and they searched for an allopathic treatment, but they all survived. Regarding the comparison between chlorine dioxide and ivermectin, we calculated the risk gradient to develop COVID-19-like symptoms in patients who were treated with CDS as a prophylactic management compared to those who received ivermectin. This is based on the article that you see here of Brian et al., published recently. And the risk rating was in 0.69 with a significant p-value. And we concluded that patients who used chlorine dioxide as prophylactic management were 31% less likely to develop COVID-19-like symptoms compared to those patients who took ivermectin as a prophylactic agent. And I have to know that ivermectin is great to prevent and treat COVID-19 patients. I use it myself to prevent. I take it at least once a month, and I take chlorine dioxide every day to prevent COVID-19-like symptoms. Regarding the treatment, we studied 1,136 symptomatic patients, And what we analyzed with them, well, this is where the article was accepted, peer reviewed, and all the process that has to be done to publish an article in Index magazine. And there is the title of the article, which was published in the Journal of Infectious Diseases and Therapy, which has an impact of 1.65. And we're going to talk about some points in that article. The patients were from all ages. We had about 13% of patients below 19 years of age. And you can see here of all the patients, all of them, I repeat, symptomatic. We do not consider asymptomatic patients as COVID-19. So some of the patients had a negative PCR test. You know that you can have false negative results. Some patients that could not get the PCR done due to economic reasons or availability. And the vast majority of the patients who had symptoms and a positive PCR. We do not consider a PCR as a valuable test. The patients came to us with the test already to be treated. So this is only to mention. We also performed, obviously, laboratory tests in these patients before and after the treatment. The treatment was at least for 21 days. And you can see here that all the parameters stay normal, and the VAT parameters, like, for example, ferritin or C-reactive protein, they get better within time. They get better as they go along with the treatment with chlorine dioxide. We also analyzed the electrolytes and all the hepatic and kidney parameters, and everything went back to normal. If we had an abnormal result before taking chlorine dioxide, as you can see in cholesterol and triglycerides who went down, you can see the levels of creatinine that go down to normal levels. Also, for example, the glucose in a mean basis was in 150, and at the end of the treatment was in the mean of 98.53. So all the parameters get better within time if the patients are treated with chlorine dioxide. You can see here in this graphic, the respiratory failure. All the patients that had respiratory failure at the beginning of the treatment were recorded in this graphic. There were more than 300 patients with respiratory failure at the beginning of the treatment. And you can see in the upper part of the graphic, the oxygen saturation of the patients at the beginning. And you can see how it gradually increases as they advance in the treatment with chlorine dioxide. We have patients with 52, 53, 55% of oxygen saturation at the beginning of treatment. So we're complicated, very complicated patients. And the same thing in the lower part, you can see that the oxygen consumption goes down gradually as they advance in the days of treatment with chlorine dioxide. You can see here that most of the patients, by day 10 to 12, they get rid of the oxygen. Some of them stay with the oxygen, but they all get rid of the oxygen. None of the patients needed oxygen after the treatment of chlorine dioxide. You can see here the summary of this article. This is not present in the article. This is a summary that I made that you can see about the female and male relation, the main treatment of days of chlorine dioxide, how long did the symptoms lasted in these patients, the doses that we used. Remember that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the WHO and the EPA and the NIOSH state that if you stay below 2.9 milligrams per kilogram, you're going to have no trouble with the chlorine dioxide. And you can see here the mean dose is 0.97 to 1.85 milligrams per kilogram. We are exactly at the half of the safe zone. You can see the mean dose here, 1.41 milligrams per kilogram, and other data that you can see how many days patients used protocol C, protocol F, protocol Y. Obviously, protocol Y, the intravenous protocol, was for very severe patients, as you can see here. Mainly the patients who were in a severe status, that was with severe respiratory failure, they had to use the IV, the chlorine dioxide through an IV solution. These patients, the ones in the treatment, developed 6.7% sporadic side effects. The main one was headache, and some other common ones was diarrhea, dizziness, nausea, and gastritis. Look at the cost, please. Of all the treatment with chlorine dioxide, $16 in mild cases, $28 in moderate cases, and $40 in severe cases. If you compare these with remdesivir, which is the only authorized drug to treat COVID-19, which does nothing but complicate patients with hepatic damage and kidney damage. The cost is about $3,000. So you can see the big difference between the treatments and the cost. That's why I think they are not allowing us to treat worldwide patients with chlorine dioxide, because it is too cheap. So they're not interested in authorizing chlorine dioxide. And the effectiveness, which is the most important part. The effectiveness of chlorine dioxide in the treatment of symptomatic patients with COVID-19 is above 99%. And you have to consider that we only treat symptomatic patients. We don't take into account any asymptomatic patients. And 61 of these patients were treated before with other types of treatment, where my colleagues, I assume that they did the best they could do for the patients, and they searched for the chlorine dioxide treatment, some of them 1 or 2 weeks after a failure in other types of treatment. So even though that has an effectiveness over 99%, so it's a great effectiveness. We evaluated the risk radio to die due to COVID-19. And we compare this specifically in the moderate and severe patients. So we compare this in Mexico, here in my country. And we analyzed only, I repeat, moderate to severe patients. And we conclude that patients diagnosed with COVID-19 treated with CDS are 94% less likely to die compared with those patients treated with conventional treatment in Mexico. All of these patients have respiratory failure at the beginning of the treatment. So if they are treated at their houses, as I treat the patients, is 94% less probable for them to die as if they are treated in the hospital with the conventional measures in Mexico. This is a humongous number. And also we, well, there you go. We have the long-term effects. We analyzed the long-term effects in the patients. You can see the article that has been published in an index magazine, the same as the first one. And that's the title of the article is COVID-19 long-term effects in patients treated with chlorine dioxide. You can search with the QR code and you get the article for free. And you can see many things in this article, but we compared all the results in this article with an article that was published in January of this year. And this is the article. It's a systematic review and a meta-analysis where they reported that 80% of the patients with COVID-19 3 months after COVID had long-term effects. And you can see all the long-term effects in here. Is amazing. And we compared this with our treatment. So we compared this in blue is the conventional treatment, is the one that is published in that article. These are the patients, the 61% of the patients who were treated before, and then we gave them chlorine dioxide. And these are the patients that we treated from the beginning with a main treatment of chlorine dioxide. And you can see the big differences in the percentage of the long-term effects. The difference is humongous. So we calculated also the risk radio between what was reported in this systematic review and meta-analysis and what we did with chlorine dioxide. And in general, to develop any long-term effect, we can state that patients diagnosed with COVID-19 that are treated with CDS are 46% less likely to develop long-term effects. Here, we do not separate if they received prior treatment or if they were treated with chlorine dioxide from the beginning. So this is in general, 46% less likely to develop long-term effects. But if we analyze specifically the conventional treatment with any specific long-term effect, you can see the big difference. These are the mean probabilities to develop a long-term effect. If you're treated with a conventional treatment, you have about 17% probabilities of having any of the 50 long-term effects referred in the article. If you are treated with multiple drugs and then with ClO2, you have about 5% of probabilities of developing long-term effects. That states a 2.7 times less probability to develop any of the long-term effects. But if you are treated from the beginning with ClO2 as the main treatment, you'll have 6.14 less probability to develop a long-term effect. So in summary, we can state that prophylaxis and treatment with chlorine dioxide has great effectiveness. Over 99% of patients will never require hospitalization. This is incredible in savings, and it is at least 20 times less expensive. We have zero nosocomial infections. Obviously, they're stated to be between 33 and 70% in the hospitalized patients with COVID-19. And the post-COVID long-term effects, or long COVID, or whatever you want to name it, are dramatically reduced. If you're treated with chlorine dioxide, you have 6.14 times less probability to have long-term effects. And then we're getting into the subject that we're here today. And I want to tell you before, why are we worried? Why is ComUSF worried for humanity? If we analyze vaccine safety, you can see the official numbers from the WHO, where they compare COVID-19 injections, experimental injections in 1 year with flu injections from 1968 to 2021 combined. Look at this, please. These are cardiac adverse drugs reactions: palpitations, tachycardia, myocarditis, pericarditis, arrhythmias, atrial fibrillation, myocardial infarction, angina, cardiac arrest, bradycardia, cardiac failure. Look at this. The difference is humongous. And you're comparing 1 year to almost 50 years. That is amazing. And if we go to the ADRs, which are the adverse drugs reaction for vaccines, you can see all the other vaccines from many years from now. You can see here, for example, from 72 for the mumps vaccine, 72 to 2021, 1971, 1968, 1989, 2000, 1994, HPV vaccine, 2006 so far. And you can see the adverse drug reactions reported. And in 1 year, you have at least 10 times more ADRs than the other vaccines, including influenza vaccine of more than 50 years of being applied. And if you analyze these with other type of drugs and other type of vaccines, you can see here the numbers. Look, from 1972 to 2021, mumps vaccine, for example. And if you analyze COVID-19 vaccine in 1 year, look at this. This is amazing. We have to stop this. And if you want to analyze vaccine mortality, for example, you can see here the reports of deaths in the virus, official data. You can get that in the internet. From 1990 to 2020, look at the mortality. And from 2020 to 2021, look at the mortalities registered officially in the virus due to this experimental jab. So that's why we're worried. And look at the mortality here. More than 50% of the deaths directly related to vaccines are due to COVID-19 in 1 year. And we include in the other half all the other vaccines in all time in history. That is amazing. Now, if we go to vaccine efficacy, because they say that the risks are worth it, please do not believe that. If we go to vaccine efficacy, we have many things to analyze. You can analyze Gibraltar, you can analyze Israel, you can analyze Chile, but I chose Gibraltar. This little over 30,000 population country. You can see here that the share of population that has been fully vaccinated, over 100%. This means that the vast majority are already vaccinated, and a lot of them have a booster. You see, almost 40% has a booster. And you can see here the curves in the cases in Gibraltar. You can see that they have the worst case scenario so far from the beginning of this pandemic. Yeah, over 160 cases per day, and they already applied the third dose of the vaccine. So tell me, is the vaccine safe? But it has any efficacy? Now, if you want to search for scientific evidence, you're going to see in this next slide 160 articles that talk about vaccine injuries. And this is not mild vaccine injuries. These are severe vaccine injuries, but severe, and I mean severe. We have myocarditis, pericarditis, Guillain-Barré, Bell's paralysis, kidney failure, hepatic failure, cutaneous manifestations, thrombocytopenia, thrombosis, blood clots, cardiac infarctions, whatever, you name it, okay? And there's also a lot of information about why do we not have to vaccinate children. There's no justification to vaccinate any child. They have no risk with the COVID-19, but they have 100 more times to die. They have 100 more times probable to die if they get vaccinated compared that if they get the COVID by itself. And there's also a lot of information about natural immunity that lasts for a long time. So in the world, we should be asking for an immunization passport, not for a vaccine passport. That is insane. Vaccines are not working at all. And this is emerging in all the world, okay? So here you have 160 of these articles. There have been published more than 430 articles with severe damages due to this COVID vaccine in less than a year. And according to the experts, the worst is yet to come in the years to go past. But I know that no amount of evidence will ever persuade an idiot. So this information is only for smart people, okay? You have to know, according to this article that was published and done in Harvard in 2009, they revealed that in general, only 1% of the adverse events from vaccines are being reported. And right now in this pandemic, I think that that is even below. So you have to multiply these complications by 100. Can you imagine the numbers? This is causing a lot of damage. So we have to stop this. So tell me now, are vaccines safe and effective, as they tell you? Because I think that the true definition of madness is repeating the same action over and over, hoping for a different result. This is what's said by Albert Einstein. I think it has a perfect application nowadays. They say that 1 and 2 doses are not working. But why would 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 would work? That is insane. This is the definition of madness and insanity. Please wake up. And getting into what we are here for, I hope that I didn't bore you guys, but we're going to talk about the AI protocol, the anti-inoculation protocol. And I want to tell you that under no circumstances we recommend to get the jab, by no means. But some people are being totally cornered to do it. So if you are one of those guys, you have something that can ease you with the side effects. But we know that we cannot prevent any of the big complications. So you have to take it. Better not to get the jab ever. But if you are obligated or you have gotten the jab already, you have something that can help you with these side effects. And in general recommendations, we are recommending alkaline diet, and we have to avoid flours, sugar, and dairy products, and if possible, red meat. You have to increase your water intake. You have to do some grounding or earthing at least 3 times a week for 30 minutes minimum. This consists of walking barefoot on nature, in grass, sand, or mud, whatever you want. Okay, this is after being vaccinated. And you have to get away from the pollution, from the electrical pollution. Avoid being near to electronic devices such as 4Gs, 5Gs, antennas, Wi-Fi's, etc. This is going to increase your symptoms of the jab. Right before the inoculation, you have to have at least 2 days before a diet rich in fruits and vegetables. You have to do an F20 protocol, which consists of putting 20 cc's of chlorine dioxide in 750 cc's of water, and you have to take that in 2 hours. You have to end this protocol 1 hour before the inoculation. So if you have the inoculation at 11 a.m., you have to do your protocol from 8 to 10 a.m. And then 1 hour prior to that, you are impregnated with the chlorine dioxide. And the zeolite, which is very important, which my friend Faustino is going to talk about later. He's an expert on that. And you have to take it 1 week, ideally 1 week before the jab. Immediately post-inoculation, you have to do the DS protocol to disinfect the area. In the protocols, you can know how to make this CD or this DS protocol. And right after that, you have to apply CDS with DMSO in a patch in the injected area. You have to mix 7 cc's of CDS with 3 cc's of DMSO at 70% of concentration with a cotton ball or a sterile gauze, and apply it in the jab area for 15 to 20 minutes. Whoa, there you go. You have to apply local heat in the jab area. You can use a seed bag, a hand warmer, a heat cushion, whatever, 15 to 20 minutes every 2 to 3 hours throughout the day. This is the first day. And after the jab, you have to do 2 F20 protocols before going to sleep. So it's 2 hours of chlorine dioxide, the same as the last one, but 2 times after the jab and before going to sleep. In the daily maintenance, we are suggesting to drink seawater, 1 intake on an empty stomach, and we have to start with a hypertonic seawater. That means 50 cc's of seawater with 50 cc's of drinking water the first month. And then, as a maintenance, 25 cc's of seawater with 75 cc's of drinking water for 60 days, 2 months. You have to take zinc, 50 milligrams, and vitamin D, at least 2,000 units a day with breakfast. Take the CDS, 1 C20 protocol. You have to do the 10 intakes a day. This is how you distribute it. Zeolite, obviously food grade. You're going to get that with Faustino. And then before bedtime, melatonin, 3 milligrams. And we are recommending also additional therapies. We are pro in adding these therapies because we know that this will accelerate the healing process. So combining the oral CDS, we can do enemas, the E protocol, E20, which consists in 20 cc's of CDS in 500 cc's of water twice a week. The foot baths are great to detox CDS with CDS and seawater for 30 minutes. So the amount would be 20 cc's of CDS plus 180 cc's of water. Ideally seawater, but any water can be used, okay? Do it for 30 minutes daily after the jab for 7 days. If CDS evaporates due to temperature, you can add more CDS as needed. The Purilamber, which I consider a great substance, these are marine electrolytes, and this is obtained from seawater and chlorine dioxide. And you have to take pre-inoculation 3 sublingual drops 1 hour before inoculation, after ending the F20 protocol, and then before going to bed, 3 sublingual drops of this same substance. And as a daily maintenance, the 3 to 6 months, 2 sublingual drops, AM and PM. Okay. And if you have in your hands energy therapy such as pranic healing or whatever you have, these can, I say, and I repeat, accelerate the healing process. And we have to know, guys, that great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. So we have to keep on going, and we have to save the world, but day by day. Thank you very much, guys. I think that this has been a little bit boring, but I hope that you enjoyed it, and we'll stay here for the questions and answers.
Thank you, Dr. Aparicio. We actually have quite a few questions already, even before you were talking. So they were talking about the patch. They say on the day of the jab, how many times do we repeat the heat patch and apply it for 15 to 20 minutes? So only those 15 to 20 minutes, or we have to continue throughout the day?
The recommendation is to do it every 2 to 3 hours, the whole first day, until you go to sleep. So maybe you can do it 3 to 4 times, or 5 or 6, whatever, but you can apply it many times a day. Remember that all the jabs have a cool process. So if we apply heat, we can solve some of the proteins, and we can interrupt some of the toxins that they have.
Excellent. Also regarding the heat, is it okay to go on sauna or do the whole body or do a cleanse?
Yes, that would be ideal. I mean, there are a lot of things that are great, but we don't put it in the official protocol because there are people that are not able to do the sauna, for example. But if you are able to immerse your body in heat, that's great. That's better because you'll get rid of many of the toxins with the heat throughout the skin holes. Okay, so you can do it perfectly. That's great.
Excellent. This is something regarding the psychiatric drugs, which, I believe you were talking about it earlier. With a son with extremely low oxidative capacity, any recommendation? He has thallium, heavy metals in excess in his blood. So he's currently taking 3 psychiatric medications plus 1 for side effects.
Great, yeah. Well, he is able to take chlorine dioxide. He will have a curative crisis or Hersheimer reaction for sure. So you have to start with low doses and increase it gradually until you get to the normal dose. And do you listen well? Yes. Okay. Now I heard a voice in the back, but okay. And you have to put apart 1 hour at least before and after taking any medication and the CDS intakes. So he's going to be able to take it. I would lower the doses and start with very, very low doses. But there are no problems. The zeolite is going to help a lot to get rid of the metals. You're going to see that with Faustino.
Excellent. There is another question regarding the seawater. So drinking seawater will stop on day 90?
No, you can drink seawater at that amount every day of your life. But we recommend it at least for 3 months. The same as all the other substances, as zinc, vitamin D, chlorine dioxide, melatonin, prurilambir, etc. At least 3 months, 3 to 6 months ideal, and this depends on the jab side effects.
Excellent. Many people work or study online using laptops, cell phones, Wi-Fi. How can one follow this protocol without using electronics?
Well, you get away at the most that you can, but you cannot get away at all. I mean, the Wi-Fi is everywhere. But if you can get away for a while to the nature and not being in touch a lot with the electronics, then that will help. Okay, as long as you lower what you're used to do as electronic contact.
Okay. If already jabbed, what protocol would you suggest to begin with?
Maintain it. You don't have to do the first 2 phases, but do the maintenance protocol for 3 to 6 months, and take all what's recommended in that specific slide. 3 months at least.
Right. I was vaccinated about 9 months ago. Can I still do this protocol?
Yes, of course, without a problem. You can get rid of a lot of toxins, no matter the timing. You should do it. You're going to get better. The sooner, the better, but there's never too late to do it.
Okay. Doesn't the DMSO increase the risk of carrying the vaccine, the mRNA package in lipids into the blood?
Okay, that's a great question. And the explanation is the next. You know that if you combine DMSO with CDS, you're going to lose some of the potential of the CDS, about 50%. But the DMSO will make the CDS penetrate into the skin a lot better. So we use the DMSO because it is a solvent. It is a solvent of lipids and water mostly. And the spike protein in the jabs, it is encapsulated in a liposome, in a lipid membrane. So the DMSO will solve that membrane of lipids, and then it will expose the spike protein. And then there's where the CDS will act directly in the spike protein. That has been published priorly, that we know specifically in what amino acids the CDS acts. So that is the explanation. The DMSO is going to dissolve the liposome that contains the spike protein, and the CDS is going to attack the spike protein. And we know as a fact in a study, in a preliminary study, that they analyzed the mucosa of the oral mucosa of the patients that were inoculated and the urine 24 hours being inoculated, and they all had spike proteins in the oral cavity and then in the urine. So as we know that this is going to be disseminated everywhere in less than 24 hours, we have to attack immediately. And that is the reason.
I guess you kind of answered the next question. What studies have you done before coming up with this protocol?
Wow, we used it for 6 months before we published it. We have very low information about the immediate post-inoculation because the vast majority of the patients come with us after they have complications. or they are feeling bad. And this can happen 1 week or 3 months or 6 months after the jab. So it is very rare that a patient calls you before he's being jabbed to tell you, what can I do if I'm getting jabbed? That's the minority of the patients. But we have some cases, and they are doing great so far. So far, they are doing great. We do not know in the long term how this is going to work. But we know that in the short and medium term, they are doing very well. They have very few complications in the worst case.
Excellent. This is a very interesting question. Does CDS oxidize graphene oxide?
Wow, this has been asked a lot recently. But we try to explain these as graphene gets all together or forms like a knife, inside the body, and we think that this is the cause of the blood clots and the thrombos and everything, all the cardiovascular problems, even the myocarditis. So we think this is the origin of that. So it's been published, the presence of graphene. So we have no doubt about it. But we can explain this about that. If you, for example, if you sterilize anything that has how do you say?
Sharp, like a sharp?
Yeah, sharp. Yeah, anything sharp. If you sterilize anything sharp with chlorine dioxide, it would lose the capacity of being sharp. It would get like round. You would not cut with a bistury, for example, if you put chlorine dioxide in it. You won't be able to cut into the skin. So we think that chlorine dioxide can get rid of this sharpness of the graphene. We have to demonstrate that. I know, but that is what we think that can happen.
Okay, great. Can I take CDS at the same time that I'm taking other medications, and how I would do it? How can I combine?
You can combine it with almost anything, but you have to separate 1 hour before and after medication to take chlorine dioxide.
Okay. Is the AI protocol safe for pregnant and breastfeeding women? Is the DMSO and CDS patch safe for pregnant women?
Yes, they can take without any problems the CDS. We would adjust it in other fields. Like, for example, the Prolamber is totally innocuous. The CDS would have a problem, and zinc and vitamin D would not be a problem. The Zeolite, Faustino is going to talk about that later, but specific Zeolite would not be a problem for pregnant women. So basically, yes, they can do the protocol, but please, if you're pregnant, don't get the jab. Please, we're seeing a lot of complications in pregnant women.
And and their babies, obviously.
Yes,
we don't know in the long term.
In the babies.
Okay. How can we adapt this protocol into children who are being vaccinated?
Wow, I don't like to talk about this because I would never like to be for the kids to be vaccinated, but we would have to adjust that to the N3 protocol with chlorine dioxide. We would have to adjust the melatonin to 1 milligram. You have to calculate that by weight, so it's not easy to tell you right now which would be the amount, but you can lower the dose, for example, of vitamin D, of melatonin, chlorine dioxide. Instead of doing C20, you do N3. It's for the kids protocol with the 3 is the prophylactic protocol, and they can also take the seawater without a problem, and the Prolamber, of course. So I don't like to talk about this because I'm really pissed that kids are being vaccinated right now, and we have to stop this. That's why we're here, Tanya. We have to stop kids of being vaccinated. The complications are going to come with time, and there's going to be irreversible. There's going to be big damage for kids.
Right. We're still in the experimental, and we need to clarify that we're not like against all the vaccines, but like the COVID, right?
Yes.
Okay. It says, do you recommend ivermectin along with CDS once someone has COVID symptoms and tested positive?
Yes, of course. Last year, in what you saw published, I only used oral CDS and IV. I didn't use enemas or nebulizations, which I use right now. So we have to unlearn to keep learning, as I say. So this year, I've been using as a prophylactic management ivermectin for the family members who are in contact with the COVID-19 patient, and also ivermectin for the treatment of COVID-19, depending on the patient. But I prescribe it like in half of the patients, and they do pretty well. You can combine ivermectin and chlorine dioxide without any problem.
Thank you. This one has really nothing to do with the anti-inoculation protocol, but I think it's important that someone has a child with hives. They think it's shedding from other people vaccinated, and they just got hives. With chill allergic reactions to CDS protocol children, what can we do?
Okay, we take the N4 protocol once they have symptoms and put it in the skin also, the DS protocol. We've been having a lot of these cases. In families, for example, that the one that works in the house is obligated to get the jab, and the other ones in the house, or either they develop COVID-19 like symptoms, or they have some reaction, could be skin reactions or other reactions. And if you do a test in these family members and you test the IgG for S protein or nucleocapsid, this is to separate between COVID-19 natural exposure or spike protein exposure. You can get the results that this family is being exposed to the S protein, meaning the spike protein. So we can do the lab work. This is a blood sample, and you can conclude that. And it is very common. We have some doctors that have not been inoculated and they have COVID-19 like symptoms, and they do this test, and it is positive to protein S. It is amazing. The spike protein is everywhere in the vaccinated people. And remember, that is a toxin.
So with this type of test, we can pretty much say or like say it for sure that there's some sort of shedding effect.
Oh, of course, there's shedding effect. We have families with this. Only one inoculated, and then 5 have symptoms 1 week after that. The only explanation is the vaccine. And you can prove that with the lab test that I'm saying, the IgG for S protein and for the nucleocapsid. So you can get this differentiation. Clinically, there could be no difference, but in the lab test you can see the difference, and it is amazing. You can have very high levels of S protein in these patients.
That's incredible. Okay, can someone drink coffee or tea at any time during following any CDS protocol?
Yes, they can do it. I wouldn't recommend to do it all day. I do recommend my patients to take coffee or tea before you start your protocol. And then afterwards, you can do it if you're like a caffeine addict, but I wouldn't recommend it to. But if you want to do it, separate at least half an hour in your intakes and the coffee.
Someone has a follow-up question to the DMSO question earlier. In the liposomes in the vaccines, there is mRNA, not the spike protein yet. With the CDS also destroy or oxidize the mRNA. Yes,
it oxidizes. It can do with any protein as well as the DMSO. The DMSO will get rid of many proteins. So yes, they both can act in there. So I have a slide in Spanish. I don't have it right now with me that explains this, how the information is contained in the liposome, and then the DMSO dissolves the membrane and then exposes the material, and then is where the chlorine dioxide acts directly in what is inside of those liposomes.
Thank you. My brother-in-law got COVID 2 weeks ago, got better with CDS. He needs to be vaccinated to travel on board. Will it be super dangerous to get the vaccine now because he has natural antibodies building up from recent infections?
Yes, ADRs in already COVID-19 patients who got exposed naturally to the COVID and then they get vaccinated, they have a higher risk of complications. And that has been published in more than 3 articles. Please don't do it. If you have been naturally exposed to COVID, make an antibody test, an IgG test. If you have a positive within like 3 months from the exposure, then you'll have immunity for life. And this is published also in a Nature article, which is called that plasmatic cells can how do you say almacenar?
Store.
The information is stored in plasmatic cells in the blood. So you don't need to be vaccinated if you have been naturally exposed to COVID. And we know for sure that natural immunity is as much as 50 times more effective than acquired immunity.
We should get happy to get COVID because now we have a solution.
No, I want to get COVID, but I take chlorine dioxide every day, so I haven't got it. I want to get it so I can get the antibodies.
Okay, this one says, can someone get the spike protein if the spouse was vaccinated, but the other spouse wasn't through sexual intercourse?
Yes. And I repeat, we have to study this, but by that preliminary study that confirmed that spike protein was present in the oral mucosa and in the urine, we know that the spike is everywhere 24 hours after the jab. So you can get infected or get in contact with the spike protein if you have intercourse. Yes.
Incredible. How should we manage our foods with when taking chlorine dioxide throughout the day?
Do not take any antioxidants. Do not take vitamin C. And with any other meals, you have to separate 1 hour before and after for your intakes.
Excellent. Well, those are all the questions we have right now from the chat. I'm sure there's going to be other questions along the time, but thank you so much for being here, answering all the questions. If anybody wants to keep having more questions, please raise your hand. We're here in an intimate environment today with a Zoom meeting. We can now go to talk about zeolite with our expert in zeolite, Faustino. Let me see. Faustino Cortez, he's a dietitian, specializes in sports mainly. He's the director of the research and development area in a company that manufactures natural nanotechnology. He's also a technical trainer by the Association of Fitness and Psychoconstructivism of the state of Tamaulipas, Mexico. He's also promoted of health sciences and spoken in public and private institutions. He's the advisor on new nutritional labeling in food and supplements. Welcome, Faustino Cortez, and thank you for joining us today.
Hello. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Crystal clear, yes.
Perfect. Hello again, and thank you very much for inviting me. It's an honor to be bringing you this information about the zeolites, which are put in the AI protocols. So I will go ahead and start my presentation. Okay, zeolite properties in the AI protocol. Well, first of all, what's a zeolite? Zeolite, it's a natural occurring compound, which is the product of volcanic ashes mixed with alkaline water, such as marine water or river water. It takes a lot of time to produce these crystalline zeolites. And the first thing we need to know about zeolites is that they are being used long time before we use them in agriculture or in our supplement form. It has been used for building pyramids, building structures, even in Roman aqueducts. There's Mayan temples built out from zeolite. Well, the first zeolite that has been studied for secure human consumption is named clinoptilolite, zeolite clinoptilolite. The most studies have been done in this type of zeolite, which is normally has the pH of 7. Very important that this mineral has a pH of 7. Okay, the first table of the AI protocol dosing, we need to prepare in advance and eating a lot of nutrient foods like fruits, vegetables. We try to make our best to have a very rich food in all these type of foods because they'll help our organism to detox from any existent pollutants and prepare our body to be very, very strong. And the pre-inoculation zeolite dosing we will take 1 week before. And we will start, if we're using spray liquid zeolite, we will start with 2 sprays in the mouth 3 times a day. That will be 3 milligrams a day. If we have a dropper liquid zeolite, approximately 1 drop 4 times a day will add up 30 milligrams. And if we find a micronized zeolite, which is a zeolite that is a little, its size is a little bigger, and it's an oral zeolite that can be drank with water. We mixed 1/2 of a teaspoon, one day at a time. We mix 1/2 of a teaspoon, and we drink with 250 milliliters. We add up approximately 3 milligrams. And we can also drink capsule zeolite. And for adding up 3 milligrams a day, we can drink 2 capsules 3 times a day, also with water. It's important that we drink a lot of water with our zeolite because it's where the process starts. If we don't have water, the zeolite cannot start absorbing these heavy metals or this toxic waste. So drinking water always is important when having zeolite, even if it's a spray form or a dropper form. Okay, so in the second table, we can see that the doses are being upped. This is because there are a lot of articles already on PubMed, which is a page where there's a lot of scientific information about zeolite already. And we can see that approximately we need 90 milligrams of liquid zeolite for heavy metals detox and also lipids detox. And we can find that 6 grams of micron zeolite is necessary for heavy metal detox and also cholesterol or triglycerides detox. So for the spray liquid zeolite, we can have 4 sprays in the mouth 3 times a day. So we can have a little bit more than 90 milligrams a day. In dropper liquid zeolite, we can have 4 drops 3 times a day. And make micronized zeolite, we can mix 1/3 of a tablespoon 3 times a day in 350 milliliters of water. We see that water intake goes up here. It's important because if we have more zeolite, we can add a little bit more water. In zeolite capsules, we can drink 3 capsules 3 times a day with also 350 milliliters of water, giving up 6 grams a day. Okay, in this little image, we can see approximately the size of some particles. Here at the top, we have a hair, the circumference of a hair. It's about 50 to 100 micrometers. And micronized zeolite approximately have 40 microns. So it could be placed almost here. So micronized zeolite can go from 40 to 10 to 1 micron. So this zeolite mostly stays on your gut, on your stomach. But when it goes under 2 or 10 microns, we can pass the blood barrier. So we have over here the nano-sized zeolite, which we call liquid zeolite or suspended zeolite, suspended in liquid zeolite. Okay, so how does zeolite works? It's very important. Zeolites are like a sponge. They are like a magnet also. They are charged electronegatively. So it has some affinity to some elements. And we can see here, micronized zeolite there are around, a good micronized zeolite is around 80%, to 40 to 10 microns, and maybe 20%, 10 to 0 microns. This is a good micron zeolite. Liquid zeolites are about 1 nanometer, equals 0.001 microns, which is called nano-sized particles or suspended in liquid. We see in the next image some virus or any type of bacteria or even genetic material. The zeolite, how does it work in here? it adheres or it sticks to this virus or bacteria. And after sticking itself, it tries to denaturalize. It's tries to break the capside, exchanging ions, absorbing the internal materials of the bacteria or the virus. And we can see that the force of adherence is very strong to electrically positive charged bacteria or virus. And even it has the properties to bind to very electrically negative charged materials. It's important because let's remember zeolite has pH 7. So it can absorb excess of acid elements, or it can absorb an excess of alkaline elements also. So we have here that the COVID-19 virus is approximately 100 to 500 nanometers, which is 0.1 to 0.5 microns. So zeolite can adhere to this virus and can absorb it and eliminate the substances inside of it. We can see that the spike particle, it is around 3.84 nanometers, equal to 38.4 Armstrongs, which is a very smaller size, even smaller particle. So here we can see the zeolite in maybe in a nano scale, and we can see that it has pores, which are pores that are sized from 3 to 9 Armstrongs, even smaller. We can exchange smaller ions here, and it's important the zeolite has a very strong cation exchange capacity. This cation exchange capacity is the force or the magnetic force that the zeolite can have to attract these elements or to adhere to bacteria or to a virus. It is said that the zeolite is the broom, is the dustpan, and is the trash can of any toxic element in our body. There's studies that it can reduce the Herxheimer reaction because of the shedding. Zeolite captures all these elements and makes them not touch your body. So your body can release this zeolite charged without harming your organs. Okay, we can see here that zeolite is composed of nanotubes, which are ranging from 3 to 9 Armstrongs. It's a really, really small nanotubes. Here we can see cesium, which is atomic radius in Armstrongs is 3.34. So it can be easily be absorbed inside the channels of the zeolite. Other elements like oxygen, which are not so heavy as the cesium, can pass freely through these pores without getting absorbed, as equal as other elements like chlorine is not that heavy, so it can pass very easily with the oxygen through the pores and not be absorbed. Heavy metals are selectively restrained for their electric charge or their atomic mass within the porous structures of the zeolite. And it's very important. These elements being charged before in the zeolite, or the zeolite is absorbing these heavy toxic metals in your body, it cannot be spilled back. Once it's cut in the cages, these elements cannot go back again. Because zeolite structure is so strong and its magnetic properties encapsulates or cages all these elements without making it leap. So it's important to notice that zeolite is not an element that will oxidize in your body and releases these metals. It's important to notice that this zeolite is a crystal and is very, very strong, and it's for approximately 400 Celsius grades for it to destroy. So, okay, what are the health benefits of healed zeolites? At the end, we will show you a lot of information we can see at the PubMed page. It's important to notice also that zeolite is listed by the FDA as generally recognized as safe. which is proven to be a non-toxic element, even for human consumption. Zeolite disposes of toxic chemicals in natural and safe way. Heavy metals, radioactive isotopes, environmental pollutants, pesticides, drugs in food, mycotoxins, virus, bacteria, parasites, saturated fats, refined sugars, also electrical pollution. Zeolites have amazing properties, physico-chemical properties to reflect or even absorb electrical pollution. It reduces uric acid in blood. It reduces your ammonia in your gut. It helps reduce the formation of alkaline or acidic stones in your galls. It also absorbs hormone disruptors in our metabolism. It helps increase our protein synthesis, vitamin, minerals, and antioxidants. It also makes and stimulates endogenous production of our very master antioxidants, which are the superoxide dismutase, catalase, glutathione peroxidase. It's important because these elements also can oxidize heavy metals in our body, and zeolite helps us produce these naturally. It also reduces oxidative stress, reduces leaky gut syndrome, and acts as a prebiotic. Balances ions pH and increases the total oxygen volume, improves our mood, improves bone formation, and it helps us incredibly in weight reduction. I've been using more than 7 years zeolite as a trainer, and I can see it makes the muscle mass of this sportman get bigger. At the same time, their weight reduction in fat goes down. I can also see these amazing properties in people who are taking some chemicals like cancer treatments. These people reduce less in their muscle mass, their hair falls less. Well, their body stays a little bit more nurtured. So we can go to the next. Okay, interesting part, zeolite versus nanoparticles and mRNA. Okay, it is known that only 6 grams of micron zeolite for 1 month can reduce LDL blood lipids. It adheres to these particles, oxidizes them, and absorbs them. And it is known that these nanolipids are electrically positively charged, and it can be oxidized by CDS, chlorine dioxide, DMSO, and also zeolite. So we have a lot of work going on together with these 3 elements and the other elements that protocol has. But we have like a very good work with these 3 elements. We can see here and the structure of this nanolipid, which you can see in this webpage. This company that creates excipients for the mRNA vaccines. And we can see it is created with ionized lipid, phospholipids, cholesterol, and nucleic acid, and pegylated lipid. We can see the structure, some of the structures they use here. And we find ethylene oxide, polyethylene glycol, which when this enters your body, it transforms in ethylene oxide, which is a very cancerous particle. We can see the information here, which you can be found on the webpage. This is said that the effective components of the mRNA vaccine are all encapsulated in these positively charged lipid nanoparticles, LNP, which protect the mRNA from its degradation, and can also efficiently complete the intracellular delivery of the information. So we can see that micronized zeolite can do this in 1 month. Imagine what can liquid or nano-sized particle zeolites can do, and in a much faster way. So it's very interesting that zeolite can also absorb and oxidize mRNA, which can be toxic. We know the spike protein also can be oxidized by the zeolites. very interesting questions. Sometimes we can see that the vaccines have some type of coadjuvants. There's information about graphene oxide being inside of these vaccines. I think we can only assume there's a graphene oxide, but if we have a very conductive material, it has to be alloyed to another type of metal. There's information that the graphene oxide is alloyed to heavy metals such as stainless steel, which is known to being absorbed by zeolite. And we can see here a comparison of three minerals. I will talk about one of them shortly, but we can see at the first time at the left side, a kaolin rock, which is very similar to zeolite. It's actually used to create zeolites. In another way, it can be used the kaolin to make synthetic zeolites. And we can see there's a study, which I list here below, which says that the reduction of intoxicity of graphene on mammalian cells by addition by using kaolin. So we can see that kaolin is similar to zeolite cleanup tillolite and can reduce 20% damage from graphene in rats in the study. It's interesting to see that the kaolin has a lower amount of oxygen in compared with zeolite, and its structure is a laminated type material, which is not that stable. We can see that there's studies on zeolite that are good for coating in addition to graphene oxide. It can be used to also remove other type of carbon in the body. The zeolite has great amount of oxygen in its chemical structure, which makes it more available for the human health. We have a higher ion exchange capacity from comparison to kaolin, and it has a three-dimensional structure with more stability. This structure or this geometry makes it has more cation exchange capacity, and it stimulates superoxide, glutathione, and catalase, which can reduce graphene oxide in blood. And it's interesting that the zeolite activates its functions at 22 degrees Celsius, and the graphene oxide activates in low temperature. We also know that all electrical signaling or all electrical properties are enhanced by a low temperature. So adding higher temperatures not will also make the zeolite activate more and absorb more, but it can deactivate these nanoparticles that could have any electromagnetical activities. And it's also known that using heat in an electromagnetic piece, it can reduce the magnetism in the piece. So I leave you here the article, and I would like to show another page really fast. So here we have many articles that can be found already on PubMed about cleanup tillolite being used in vitro, in humans, in plants, in animals, in athletes, always a cleanup tillolite. We see antiviral properties of the cleanup tillolite, many biomedical applications, interesting, blood pressure reduction, lipid profile, testosterone, removing sugars in blood, electromagnetic and reflection properties of zeolite. And we have a lot of information now. Maybe 6 or 7 years ago, we couldn't find a lot of information about zeolites, but now these pages have a lot of information. There's a lot of scientific research about micronized zeolite and liquid zeolite. And here at last, we have the study on kaolin rock and how it helps to alleviate graphene oxide toxicity. It's very interesting article. And we have a second one here. Kaolin alleviates the toxicity reaction in mammalian cells. Very interesting article also. So I'll stop sharing. And that's all for my presentations. If you have any question about the zeolites or its processes, I can be happily answering you.
Thank you so much, Faustino. Yeah, there's quite a lot of questions. Actually, I went on to another chat and also got some more. Let me see. How can we start here? Okay, so what side effects does the I can't pronounce
Clinoptilolite
zeolite have? And I know it's very important to mention that because it's the human, right? It's the food grade.
It's food grade, exactly. It's food grade, and it's also considered as a grass by the FDA. So it's generally safe to drink or use a Clinoptilolite zeolite. And there's studies of non-toxic properties of Clinoptilolite, so there's no side effects. What we can find is that zeolite, Clinoptilolite absorbs a lot of water, so it can sometimes make your stomach a little bit in need of water for the process of food to activate. So constipation could be a factor if we drink a little bit of water. So it just, if we drink water, we can remove this constipation. Also, zeolites do not intervene with other pharmaceuticals. In a question before, they were talking about psychiatric pharmaceuticals. I'll go and answer this because it's important. Zeolite can remove some metals used in this type of pharmaceuticals, so it can reduce its effects, but it won't damage your body. It actually detoxes you from these heavy metals also found in cancer therapies.
Yeah, that was the next question. If the zeolite can cause liver or kidney damage.
Okay.
If you want to go more into depth on this.
Okay. Zeolites can safely be removed from our body in a natural way. It actually reduces the charge of toxic elements to our kidneys. So it's really, really secure to drink zeolite because it can reduce the Herxheimer reaction. Yes, and it'll help our body even make our organs function in a better way. There's studies on how it can reduce the work on the kidneys, and myself, I've used them in people which have maybe 15% of kidney function, and we can better them from 16 to 60%, and having also one kidney. So I don't think there's a problem with the kidneys. Actually, the contrary.
Great, thank you. Can zeolite the natural beneficial minerals and nutrients in our body?
Okay, natural zeolite, Clinoptilolite. If it's a sodium-based Clinoptilolite, it can absorb some minerals, not as much as if we could take other type of zeolite, but Clinoptilolite best for human consumption in my studies has been calcium Clinoptilolites. This calcium Clinoptilolite won't absorb minerals from your food source, but it can make your body absorb more of these nutrients and make you grow bigger if you're an athlete, or if you are in an oxidative stress. Your body will increase its body mass or maintain it a little bit more. So it's sure zeolite won't absorb your minerals in that way. Maybe some activated carbon charcoal would absorb even more particle because it's not selective. So zeolite is safe. Don't worry.
Thank you. Can zeolite absorb chlorine dioxide?
chlorine dioxide's atomic mass is not that heavy, so it could be absorbed maybe in some seconds, but while entering the body, and the zeolite having in touch 22 degrees Celsius, CDS can go really, really fast from the zeolite. It actually helps us have more accessible CDS in our body, because while removing all these toxins, our body's ways of absorption absorbing CDS are free, so we can absorb even more CDS while cleaning ourselves from these heavy metals. So I won't be worried about using zeolite and CDS in the same dose, but actually zeolite is being used 30 minutes or 15 minutes before food, and CDS is being used 1 hour later or before any food. So I don't see any inconvenience there.
Okay, so for this protocol, for the anti-inoculation, do we space it also between 1 hour or two after zeolite intake? Which one do we do first with meals? So I don't know, the question is a little confusing. Say zeolite intake before starting CDS, or take zeolite after CDS to bind the oxidized toxins?
I would use it as recommended 15 to 20 minutes before every meal. We can also use zeolite in other times of a day, maybe even finishing our food. No problem. Sometimes people have, inflammation, acid reflux. We could use zeolite in the moment we are feeling these symptoms. And also, if we are feeling the Herxheimer reaction, we could use zeolite in that moment with no problem.
Thank you. Can zeolite bind to graphene oxide? And okay, you kind of answered that already in your presentation, but if it has a negative charge, how will that work? And can you explain a little more?
Okay, if this graphene oxide have a negatively charged elements, it could be binded, it could be attached, because let's remember zeolite is pH 7, which is not over alkaline or acidic, so it makes your ions exchange and have an equilibrium in the blood or in the organs. So we have an excess of these elements being acidic or excess of alkaline. It can be absorbed, yes. And we know that this graphene oxide have a lot of electric charge. So it can be adhered by the zeolite easily, even more if it has other heavy metals in it.
Thank you. What about the take of zeolite liquid spray application, taking under the tongue for better absorption?
I recommend liquid zeolite because it can travel faster to our bloodstream, even faster than micronized zeolite. It will take a little bit more of time, and most of the zeolite will stay on your gut and exchange some elements there. And maybe 10%, maybe 5% of the zeolite, if it has the nano size available, can be absorbed to the bloodstream. But I prefer to have both in hands, because one prevents me from heavy metals entering, and the other one helps me take them out, the ones that are already in the blood. Okay.
Yeah, I guess they were asking if also if it's better to spray it sublingual, so it's that faster or better?
Yes, sublingual is a faster way of absorbing zeolite, nano-sized zeolite.
Mm-hmm. How do we integrate zeolite and? Oh no, wait, I already read that. I'm sorry. Let me see. So I read on social media, I'm new to this CDS world, and it's a lot of information. There's also misinformation. When I read about zeolite, it said that it's used to make cattle get fat. Is this true?
Yes, zeolite is being used for a lot of processes, even in our food grow. We use here in Mexico, where I live, we use zeolite to make cattle grow in a healthy way, because while removing all these toxic heavy metals in this animal's body, obviously their body absorb more nutrients and grow in muscle, less fat. Even we find animals have healthier life, and their lipid profile is very, very, very healthy. Omega-3 and omega-3 lipids are up. Well, it's just like CDS. If you use it in an animal and it makes it healthy, it also helps us to plants and for human consumption. And it's my question is, do animals drink water? Do we drink water? So it doesn't mean that if the animal eat this product, it's just for animal. It's not like that. Zeolite have a lot of studies behind and have been used since a long, long time, even for your water filtration, your air filtration, even in paints for astronauts use this paint to remove, electricity at the atmosphere. Well, there's a lot of story behind the zeolites, and human consumption is not new. Chinese medicine used it a long, long time before, and also our Mayan people used the zeolite to detox their bodies.
How incredible. And all this information about it. There it says, why is zeolite recommended before meals? And in which cases can it be used after meals?
Okay, we use the zeolite before meals to make our metabolism absorb better the food nutrients and to block heavy metals from the foods. Let's notice that the most contaminants or toxic substances come in a very, very big percentage in our food supply. And we can reduce this by using zeolite before. We optimize our metabolism, we absorb zeolite to our bloodstream, and we can even absorb better the CDS after eating, so we can add more doses of CDS after, because our metabolism makes these antioxidants and all these food elements absorb faster into our bloodstream. So that's the way we can use zeolite after a meal. If we have, for example, some stomach ache, or even if we have a diarrhea, we can use it in the moments, because zeolite is great for absorbing diarrhea bacteria that causes those bacteria, and also makes our body does not loses a lot of water from electrolytes. So it's sure to use zeolite anytime, even if you feel anxiety, you feel any type of fear, you drink some zeolite and it feels great in your stomach, and you can feel your brain good afterwards.
Great, thank you. There's lots of people liking your presentation, and they're asking if you can share it, like if we can share your presentation on.
Of course, and I can share also the links for the studies I just mentioned. There's a lot of more studies, but I can share those.
Great, thank you. Is there any interaction between drugs and supplements with kryptonite zeolite?
Very interesting question. How I said before, some pharmaceuticals with heavy metals in it, it can be absorbed, and these pharmaceuticals can lose their power, but it cannot make our body have a problem with this. It even detoxifies ourselves. But if we have, insulin or metformin or supplements, it can make them work even more, because zeolite has properties of absorbing sugars in bloodstream. So it can make metformin or insulin pharmaceuticals to work more. So we need to be careful if we're going to consume more pharmaceuticals that brings us down lipid levels or glucose levels. We need to make some adjustments there. But normally there's no problem with other pharmaceuticals or supplements. We need to know that if our supplement is a highly positively charged supplement, maybe it can absorb some of those elements, but normally are toxic substances which zeolite absorbs.
Thank you. So you've already explained how the zeolite can eliminate substances of the experimental inoculation. But how fast can this be done?
Okay, the study suggests that 1 month is needed for micronized zeolites to reduce heavy metals and lipids in your body. Maybe we're talking about a week, half a week, if we're talking about liquid zeolites, or maybe in the same day we can see a reduction in heavy metals. But here it's very important to say that zeolite is not a miracle cure. It needs help from us and from the other substances we add in the inoculation protocols, because they all together make a great work. And we can see the work of Dr. In South Africa, which is named, give me a second.
Sandra Botha?
Yes, it's exactly. Sandra Botha. She's using chlorine dioxide. She's using vitamin D. She's using zeolite to better the blood work in these people who have been jabbed. And she's got images very, very, very good about this protocol she's using to make her patients feel better. And it's important that we know that we have these solutions and not to be afraid, but we also don't condone the usage of the vaccines.
Thank you. That's very true. Can zeolite be used in pregnant women and children?
Yes, it's always important, the dosage. In this type of patients, it is recommended that children take 2 grams daily, maybe once or 2 times a day. As fathers, we need to know that we don't need to expose our children to these inoculations or even to toxic foods, because let's remember, most of the toxic heavy metals come from our food supply. And if as parents, we need to take care of the food intake also. It's also secure for pregnant women. There's a studies in Russia where the Chernobyl happened, where they use zeolite and they add them to cookies and they give them to children, and they have a reduction on cesium or in these radioactive isotopes in the children and many pregnant women.
So when combined with other foods per se, or eating it with or drinking it for different presentation, won't really affect the ingredients of the food. Like if they were able to put that on cookies, that's actually fine.
Yes, sometimes there's zeolites that are being mixed with other supplements to make them absorb better to your body. So we can see exactly in the United States that there's a lot of zeolite companies that even mix this with some antioxidants. They mix this with lipoic acid, with other natural vitamins. And what it does is that it helps your body absorb these elements, which are healthy, faster, and potentiates their absorption. So it's sure that there's no problem combining some elements.
Okay. How much water should we drink per day so the zeolite works?
I would say what normally recommended 2 liters of water, a little bit more. If I'm an athlete, I would drink maybe 3. But let's remember that water, we're talking about also the seawater that is recommended in the protocol, not only plain water, because it's also important to notice that the electrolytes from this water can help the zeolite make this cationic exchange, this magnetic absorption properties.
Let's see. How can zeolite interact with COVID-19?
Okay, as I explained before in the table, where we could see the image and the comparison size of the particles, the zeolite will attach to the COVID-19 virus and slowly but steady will exchange ions and break its capside. and even make the capsite dry because it absorbs the liquids inside the capsite, and slowly but steady oxidizes the material inside the virus and absorbs and also dehydrates completely the material, which and it's safely removed from the body afterwards. Maybe the COVID-19 is not such a small particle to be absorbed, but the zeolite attaches to the zeolite and covers it and absorbs every part of it, which if it was like an octopus absorbing with its tentacles.
Okay. Can zeolite bind to protozoa like the ones causing amoebiasis?
Sure. There are some parasites that have been studied that are being absorbed or well, the zeolite has many properties. First of all, it changes the area where these parasites live. So it makes these parasites have an environment which is not favorable for their reproduction. It eliminates their food intake, and also it absorbs and it attaches to these parasites slowly and desiccates them also. We could see at the first days, if we do use a micronized zeolite, maybe some mucosa coming out from the feces the first 2 or 3 days if we have our colon very intoxicated with parasites.
That's crazy. Wow, this really works for almost everything. This is a really interesting question. It says, will zeolite help a person with electrosensitivity? This is an allergy to radiation found in electronics, Wi-Fi, mobile phones, cell tower antennas, etc.
Okay, I don't have the answer for this question, but there's a lot of studies that suggest that zeolite can absorb microwaves that can reflect electric pollution, and it's being used even in paints for this electrical pollution not to come inside maybe a house or someplace. I think it's possible that if you drink zeolite and these frequencies which are being everywhere, stops the leaky gut syndrome in your metabolism. There's studies of how zeolite reduces the leaky gut syndrome. First of all, because absorbing all these elements, but I think also because it reflects much of this electro pollution that makes our cells highly sensitive and makes also the process of leaky gut syndrome.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have some questions for Dr. Manuel Aparicio too. You're here, right? Okay, it says, have you examined a patient that recovered one or more inoculations, but tests do not detect adverse effects, which may indicate they received a placebo?
Well, not all of the patients would have side effects. Manage that would be crazy. But yes, we see some patients that have no side effects now so far. We don't know in the future. And yeah, there's a possibility that some people are getting placebos, yes. Mostly at the beginning of the trials, they received placebo. Right now, I don't think there should be any placebos at all. But yes, we've seen patients with no side effects.
Okay. There's another question about chlorine dioxide. It says, is it okay to store it in plastic, or is it better in glass?
You can store it both. It is PET, but you have stored it too, and there's no problem to store it. And it can last for 1 year at the fridge with continuous below 11 degrees Celsius temperature. It can last for 1 year. And the most important thing is that it has not to be exposed on the UV rays, because these deactivate the chlorine dioxide. So you can put it in a plastic bottle or in a glass bottle, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. My screen shows a little different, but it's also Faustino here. There's like a mix, or right now I'm kind of mixing the questions. It says, does zeolite contain aluminum in this composition? Is it not toxic to our health?
Okay, zeolite is composed from aluminum, silicium, calcium, and other elements which are binded together. These are not found freely when ingested. It actually takes a lot of work to bring these elements apart. So there is no problem using this zeolite. If we can have these elements apart, we could find aluminum and silicium in an oxide form, which are not toxic for our bodies, but these elements will never be around alone. So there's no worries about zeolite releasing aluminum in a salt form, which is the toxic way to consume aluminum.
Okay. Dr. Manuel Aparicio, why does the CommuSav do not really promote MMS when it actually works? I'm also new on this, but I've seen a lot of documentaries saying it actually works also with MMS form and drops.
No, of course it works. It obviously works. The thing is that most of the patients with COVID or the post-JAF side effects need higher doses of chlorine dioxide. And if you give a patient, for example, a 60 kilogram patient, the first day with harsh symptoms would need 60 cc's of chlorine dioxide. If you give that patient day one 60 activated drops of MMS, you're going to feel it in the stomach badly. So that's why we prefer CDS for higher doses. But to prevent, MMS is great. And for example, for many conditions, MMS is better than CDS. Like, for example, autism. Autism has to be treated with MMS. It's a lot better than CDS. But we're not at all against MMS. In the contrary, we promote MMS in the specific cases that works better than CDS. But we use both.
Great, thank you. Can zeolite help prevent blood clots? That's for Faustino.
Yes, zeolites help a lot with our blood. Let's remember it reduces not only cholesterol, but also triglycerides and also blood sugar levels. And this contributes to blood forming clots. And it's also known that zeolite tries to make an equilibrium in ions in our body, so our hemoglobin levels don't go down. Actually, some zeolites are charged with iron, which makes our blood be charged also with oxygen. Remember, there's 96 molecules of oxygen inside the zeolite, so it makes our body and our blood healthier. Actually, the doctor's Sandra studies, she shows some images on how the blood work of vaccinated people, and after using the protocols, the blood is healthier and its shape is healthier, and so zeolite can help with this.
A lot of people want to know where to buy zeolite in the US.
Okay, the first thing you need to know about zeolite is that you need to buy a zeolite which is clean up zeolite and that has maybe FDA approval, and that the company you look this from has a physical chemical studies on this zeolite, just to assure that you're getting zeolite, clean up zeolite, and not other type of zeolite. That's my recommendation. You can find them on the web, in the internet, but it's preferably you look for a person that really has a lot of time selling this product with all these studies behind. So you can find it like that. Zeolite, clean up zeolite.
Excellent. Another question for Dr. Manuel. How long can we take a CDS as a preventive way? Do we have to take breaks in between?
You can take it for life. Chlorine dioxide becomes salt, NaCl, and you eliminate it. And for example, a prophylactic protocol with C20, for example, like the AI protocol, gives us about 7% of the salt requirements in the 24 daily basis. So you can take it daily. How long can you take salt at these doses? And how long can you get more oxygen in your cells all life.
Forever.
So you can take it forever. There's not a problem about that.
Okay, thank you. So somebody has a question about the whole placebo situation. Is there a way to know that the population is getting placebo or not, or is just we don't really know anything about it?
We don't really know anything about anything of the jabs. There's been hidden information all around the world. I don't think that they're doing any placebos right now. At the beginning, as I said, for sure they did some placebos, but right now I'm sure that they're not doing any placebos anymore. At least that's what I think. But as I told you before, we don't know anything about nothing at all about the jab. So they're hiding everything. Everybody knows that.
Right. There is a side question on the side because you mentioned autism and they want to know where to get more information about autism. For this, I would say go to Comusab, our website. You can change the language and go to comusab.com. You can look up videos there. Most of them are in Spanish at the moment in the library, but you can also look for Kerry Rivera. She's bilingual and she's treated a lot of children and getting them out of the spectrum. You can look her up on Telegram. She has a site, so it's Kerry with a Kerri, not the Y, it's R, and then Rivera. Just look her up. We have a lot of videos, and also there's an autism. Comusab autism group in Spanish, but we also have videos there and information for you guys. There's so many options about treating so many diseases with CDS.
Yeah, I want to add up to that. The autism is a condition, a wide spectrum condition that has to be addressed multidisciplinary. It is very important. Here, food is fundamental. You have to do big changes in food. You have to do many therapies. Physical therapies, oral therapies, and you have to take the P protocol, the anti-parasitic protocol of with the CDS or MMS. Mainly MMS is better for autism, as we said before, and you have to do the whole P protocol. It's very dense, but it helps a lot. We've seen a lot of kids getting better of the autism, and some of the kids have healed of autism with this protocol and the multidisciplinary management.
And this has to be for life, pretty much, right?
Yes.
Changing of habits.
These kids are in an intense program for many months. And after they get better, they keep with good intakes, good food, specific foods. They will never take any more gluten, sugars, and dairy products, but they can do practically a normal life with food. There's a lot of options nowadays in all the world.
Thank you for that information. Let me see. For zeolite, it says, what is the length of the zeolite intake? 1 to 3 months. Do we take? It's pretty much the same question as CDS.
We can keep up the zeolite intake maybe 3 months. We can even go to 6 months with no problem. Many athletes use the zeolite even for their before they go to a championship or to some kind of event, and they keep up even the zeolite 1 year, 2 years in a row. It's also important to let you know that zeolite, when ingested, can be in your body from 5 to 7 hours. That's why we recommend it 3 times a day for it to be approximately 21 hours a day in your system.
Well, thank you so much to both of you. If you want to just give us our last words, because I know there's a lot of questions. The information is a little bit limited in English, so we appreciate your time. But I know you have a surgery and you also have an appointment, so we want to be respectful of your time. Dr. Aparicio?
Thank you very much, Tanya. It's always a pleasure to be here with you guys. And before everything, I want to say I'm sorry because of my English, but I hope that you got all the information that you needed and that you understood everything that we said. There's also, I'm going to share this presentation with you guys without any problems. Tanya will have it and she can share it in all the programs. And again, thank you very much. And we can do this again when we have more information. That's daily. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor. We know you have to go. Faustino, you have your last words?
Thank you very much, Dr. Aparicio. Thank you very much, Tania, and all Comisap team for letting me share this information about the zeolites and all these interesting properties of this mineral. And I encourage everyone to search for themselves. Do not take for granted what you see on the television or the internet, and educate yourself with the most scientific papers you can, or even with your intuition, because the information around us is there to deceive us. And some things like CDS, which is natural, and zeolite, it's natural, are pretty easy to understand when you see the benefits and when you feel them in your body. So don't let them make you think that these substances are toxic. So thank you very much, and that will be all from my part.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We will be sharing this Zoom meeting with all of you. Please share it, download it, upload it everywhere in all those platforms that are that won't delete it. So we appreciate your time, and thank you. We'll let you know about other conferences coming up. Thank you.